Hi guys, happy Thursday to you all. Wanted to come on here today and just like share my story of how it is I went from 125 to 197. This is my own story. Each person has their own story about where they are in their life. We can't replicate anybody else's story because we're all individuals. We all have our own DNA, as they say. So, with that, before we start, I do want to say that this story I'll be telling is going to include talk about anxiety and depression, EDs, bullying, name calling. So, if any of this, also medical stuff, my own medical stuff, if any of this um triggers you, just feel free to pass this video along, just go by it, it's okay. And always to remember that if you're feeling some way that's, and you need somebody to talk to somebody, talk to a friend, talk to a sibling, talk to a parent or your doctor, there's always somebody to talk to out there. There's always somebody to talk to. So make sure that you reach out if you need somebody to talk to at any time. I think part of, for me, talking to you guys is part of like therapy for me. I don't know. I just want to say that. I know it's not real therapy, but it just helps me. I've always been a person. I've always been very anxious. I'll tell you an example. I worked as a bartender. So when I be behind a bar, I would be like all bubbly and, like I can on the camera and be like, oh, blah, 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 how's your day? And this, that, and the other thing. And then as soon as my shift was over, I'd go sit on the other side of the bar and I'd be like, and people would be like, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine. Well, how was your day? It was okay. I don't know, when I was like, I don't know if it's it being in charge part because I'm behind the bar, so I'm in charge, of everything that's going on. And then when I get on the other side, I'm no longer feel like I'm in charge, if that makes any sense to anybody. My whole life, I grew up, which is a totally different story, um, in a very, very hostile, dangerous, I want to say childhood. Um, I don't know what other words to use for it. And I grew up as the person who always has to be in charge of everything. If I'm not in charge of stuff, it's like it might not go right. Okay. I'm the person who has to drive the car. If I don't drive, my husband is literally the only one I allow to drive me around. I have gotten to the car with other people, and the whole time it's like, oh gosh, because I'm not in charge. It's like, watch that car, watch that, watch that, watch that. I'm the wife that memes are made of. Like, it's a red light, 20 miles down this road, stop. But if I'm in the car, I'm fine driving, but when somebody else is driving, no, I'm not fine. Okay, so let's get on with the thing. Okay, so when I had my first baby, I weighed 99 pounds. And after I had my baby, I weighed 102. I literally had the baby, and the doctor said, bring maternity clothes because you're going to be, you're going to be still, kind of like you're pregnant. Your body's going to still, be like you're pregnant. So you need the maternity clothes, to go home in. So I brought maternity clothes. I had a C-section and they gave me medication. So I went to the pharmacy, and as I got out of the car, go through the pharmacy, I had to hold my pants up because they were falling down, because I literally went from having a basketball, and that's all I had. There's nothing else, nowhere else, just a little basketball right here. My child weighed 5 pounds, 13 ounces. and I had had a C-section, and so I had this little basketball, and as soon as I had the baby, nothing. It was gone. Completely gone. I am not fibbing. Well, 202 pounds, that's it. So my pants were falling down on me as I was going through. When I had my second baby, I weighed 102 all the way till then. And when I had my second baby, I went up to 118. And I got pretty big. I could actually, I mean, I was pretty, I probably, I think I weighed 130 pounds, 135 pounds. But it was all here, all contained here. Um, Sorry if you guys see me. My teeth are, my mouth is really dry and my teeth are not working well today. Take care of your teeth. Is so important. I had to have all my teeth out because I had a bad gum disease and I didn't even have a cavity. It's just go to the dentist and they'll tell you where you're at before you end up having to have all this. But anyway, let's not get off topic because I'm good at that. There's a shiny thing. No. But yeah, so back in those days, people would call me names because I was so thin. I was 5'5", like I am now, and I weighed 118 pounds. And people would call me Twiggy. They call me a stick figure. They call me olive oil. That was a favorite one. Even in school, that olive oil was the one. I had stringy brown hair. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Even this is terrible to say, but even my husband said I was the ugly duckling turned into a swan. I'm not sure where the swan is now, but yeah. So I would, they called me a rock star. I had to ask my husband, what is a rock star? I didn't even know what that was because I was like so naive. And he's like, oh, that's somebody that does, things you're not supposed to do. Starting with the D. I don't know what I'm allowed to say on here or not, so I'm just gonna, try to be a little vague about some stuff. And so those were the names they called me. And it kept getting in my brain, our brains, the way they work. That's why it's so important to tell your kids you love them every day and how beautiful they are and how smart they are. And, remind them all the time because everything that we take into our brains, our brains and our mental health are just connected. I'm pretty sure of it. So, yeah. So I went to the doctor, and the doctor said, well, don't worry about what people say about you, Cheryl, because you're going to live to be really old. You're great. You're in perfect health. You have nothing wrong with you. You're going to live to be an old lady. Okay? And I was like, okay, I won't. And it just kept on and on and on. How come you don't eat so much? Are you going to eat anything? What'd you eat today? How come you're so thin? Nobody ever said, well, go to the gym and work out. You'll tone up or anything like that. No, it was just you're too skinny. You're a stick. You can hide behind a tree. And, don't go outside. It's too windy. You're going to blow down. And so all this stuff kept going in my brain and in my brain and in my brain. And it kind of got the opposite of what most EDs are. And I started looking in the mirror and I'd look in the mirror and I'm not going to lie to you. I'd look in the mirror and I'd just see ugly. I'd see skinny. I'd see a stick figure you write on a piece of paper. And that just kept weighing on me all the time. So then later on, we moved to where we live now, and the same thing started happening. Why don't you eat? You're not eating enough. You're so skinny. If you eat more, you'll look a little bit better, and blah, 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 blah. Same old crap, different day. So finally, I thought to myself, okay, I got to do something about this. So I did join the gym and tried to have somebody help me, and I felt like nothing was happening. There's nothing happening. I'm coming to the gym, I'm not gaining any weight, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. They're telling me to eat this many calories, and I'm thinking, eat this many calories? Dude, I'm trying to gain weight. I'm not trying to. But I think what they were doing was they were trying to tell me if I ate this many calories and I went to the gym and I worked out and then I would gain muscle. No. The next thing went in my brain is I got to figure out how I'm going to gain some weight. So what I started doing was, back then I could only eat, if I will take McDonald's for example, if I got a hamburger and I got a French fry and I got a Coke, I would only eat a half of the hamburger, a couple of French fries, and I would drink the whole Coke. That was my calories. I just drank my calories all the time. Now, mind you, I didn't have high cholesterol. I had no high blood pressure. I had no thyroid problem. I had no diabetes problem. Nothing like that. I was in perfect health. I mean, I was like the epitome of perfect health. So I decided, okay, I'm going to have to force myself. So this is where I say I was the opposite of most EDs. I would sit down and force myself to eat 3 meals a day, to the point that I would be sick to my stomach. And I'd be, kind of like when you go to a buffet and you overeat and you start feeling, you're like, oh, I shouldn't have ate that last dinner roll because, oh, how am I going to get home? I can't even drive home. I'm so tired now. That to that point. As soon as I got to that point, then I would take a meal replacement shake, like 350 calories, and I would stick a straw in it and I would suck that sucker down. So now not only did I overeat, probably stuff that wasn't even good for me, let's just face it, because I've never been a vegetable person. I've always liked fried foods and stuff. Now that I overate, I added another 350 calories. Now, I did this 3 times a day. So on top of the regular meals, I was taking in 1,050 calories a day. I started seeing the scale go up. So next thing you know, I'm like at 125 and then 130. And I'm looking in the mirror, and what do I see in the mirror? Oh, there's that stick figure hiding behind the tree from the wind. And I'm like, I just got to keep going, okay? I'm going to get there and look normal soon. I'm not going to be, skin and bones and be so brittle and, have people asking me, when are you eating? When are you doing this? When are you doing that? So I kept going. Next thing you know, I'd get on the scale, and the scale would say 140. And I'd look in the mirror and, okay, a little bit more. I just need a little bit more. So I kept going up and up and up and up and up. So then I got to 160. And I'm looking in the mirror and I'm like, oh, well, I don't know. I kind of like the way I look. Okay, 5 more pounds. That's all. And that was every time from 125 all the way to 165. I just need to gain 5 more pounds. If I can gain 5 more pounds, I'm going to look amazing and I'm going to be great. And, and I've always been, I've taught my children and everything, when you look in the mirror, you have to like what you see. If you're looking in the mirror, it doesn't matter if I don't like what you got on. It doesn't matter if Joe Blow over here doesn't like what you got on. It doesn't matter if Susie Homemake over here likes what you got on. You have to look in the mirror and like what you see. Okay? And that's the way I've always felt, So with the, all this in my brain about how skinny I am and, oh my gosh, you got to gain weight and you need to do this and you'll look better. That really played a big part of everything, because that's all I saw in the mirror every time was that stick figure. Olive oil, twig girl, the rock star, And so I said, okay, 5 more pounds and I'll be 165. And I thought, okay, that's it. I'm going to stop there. I think 165 is a perfect weight for me. Of course, now I'm already 15 pounds over my weight for my height, but because my face had got rounded out and everything, I just thought, oh, my neck was rounded out more. My stomach was I had some kind of a hip now, and my up here was getting bigger. Everything was, and I'm like, oh, now I'm looking good. A couple years down the road, I decided I always took a video with my dogs, and okay, well, let me back it up. So now I'm at 165. So guess what? I stopped all the meal replacement shakes. Because now, instead of only being able to eat that half a hamburger, that little half a cheeseburger, and a couple fries and a Coke, now I could eat a quarter pounder or a double quarter pounder, the biggest fry they had and the biggest Coke they had, and then I still wanted a bag of donuts afterwards, and I would sit there and eat potato chips, and you wouldn't believe, and I almost can cry thinking about it, that I thought this was how awesome was this, that I could sit down and eat potato chips, and I could sit down, I could eat donuts and everything, and now everybody thought that I looked so good, and here I am, I'm overweight, and but I'm like, oh wow, I can do all this, and I'd start to get where I would make a whole cake for for everybody, and then all day long, it'd be my day off, and all day long I'd go over there and get a little slice, and then I'd eat it. 10 minutes later, I'd go get another slice. Before you know it, half the cake was gone. Then 3/4 of the cake was gone, and there was about this much cake left, and that was it, out of a whole bunch cake. My husband come home and be like, Cheryl, what happened to the cake? Oh, well, I don't know. I was eating it, and I don't know what happened to it. It's gone. There's cake there for you. Stop complaining. Where he wasn't complaining. He's just like, what happened to the cake? I ate it all. That's what happened to it. And then I would sit I would sit down, watch some TV. I ate one of those big French onion dips with a bag of potato chips, and just eat that. I'd eat almost the whole tub, and I'd eat almost the whole bag. There'd be nothing but crumbs by the time I was done. I would buy cupcakes in the box, and I would eat 4 at a time. Sometimes I'd take 3 of them. I'd get up, come in here, get 3 of them, take them in the bedroom, eat them, and then get up and start my day. So that's starting my day with 900 and something calories. Okay. Now, my metabolism has always been perfect. So I'd start my day sometimes with 900 calories before I didn't even get out of the bed, other than to get the cupcakes and take them back to bed and watch me some Dateline or something. So turned around, and a couple years later, I started looking. Now I'm going to say this is about 5 or 6 years ago. I took a video of the dogs opening their toys on Christmas. Yes, I know. I'm a dog mom. If you're a dog parent, you understand. But I took a video of them opening their presents. And I'm looking at that video, and I'm looking at me crawling around the floor under the Christmas tree trying to get presents out. I had the camera set up, and I'm trying to get the presents out. And I'm like, my mouth is just like wide open, and oh my gosh, that's me. And so, at this time, I don't think my scale was, I didn't have a scale no more, because I thought I was perfect now. I could eat all I wanted, and I felt like I looked good in the mirror, and which I did look good to me till I saw that video. Got a scale, went out, bought a scale, got on it. I weighed 197 pounds. I literally cried for 2 days. I'm like, okay, how did I get from 165, which was perfect, to 197? The cake, the cupcakes in the bed, you know, before I get out of bed, the 900 calories I was eating, sitting there eating that whole tub of French onion dip with a whole bag of potato chips, a 12-inch foot-long sub from wherever I would get it or make it myself. I was to the point and didn't really recognize it that when I made dinner and I always fix my husband's plate. It's what I do. It's what we do in our household, you know. I mean, I'm home all day. So I always fix his plate, you know. He can fix his own plate, but I do it for him. A scoop of macaroni and cheese, a couple hot dogs, or whatever, you know, if that's what we're having for dinner. And then over here on my plate, the rest of the macaroni and cheese, the whole box, other than that one little scoop for my plate, my hot dogs, whatever beans were left went on my plate. Making like pork chops. My plate had 3. His plate would have 1 or 2. And then I would go back and get more. And I would eat the whole time I was cooking. You know, I even have a video where I showed me looking the icing or the cake mix out of the bowl, saying, this is what you can do when, you know, you're on your own and your kids are grown and gone. You can lick the bowl. Yeah, don't. It's not a good thing to do. We get back to where I was. Okay, so now I'm 197 and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, how did I get here? What has happened to me? And I cried for like, I want to say a day or two. And then I decided to join the gym. I started working out at home. I got myself down to 135 pounds. And I was stalled. And I couldn't